Hello and good morning. This is the Breville Barista Pro in the brass sea salt color, model BES878SSB. This video is a demonstration for one of my customers, Telleeya, who lives interstate and just purchased this machine. Congrats to her. In this video, I'll be demonstrating the machine, making a coffee, so testing the grinder, the brewing, hot water, and the steam wand, of course. This machine is in this fantastic golden white color. I absolutely love it. I really hope Breville makes more machines in this color. But yeah, this is basically a new machine that's been opened, so it's got a scratch here. I think it had a scratch on there as well, and the buttons had a bit of a imperfection around the plastic, around the plastic inserts. But otherwise, it's basically like a brand new machine. And I'm going to be making my morning coffee on it. So I'll be using my own parts as much as possible. So this is my own portafilter, my own bean hopper, and my own water tank, just to keep your machine nice and dry till when I send it by post. So this is your actual water tank, and the handle is still in packaging. The portafilter handle, I'm not going to be using that, just to keep it dry. Cool. Let's make a coffee. So I like to begin every routine with a blank shot. So what's that? That's just a shot of hot water into my cup through the handle, just to warm things up. Just gonna let it brew. Just gonna flush my portafilter. But yeah, the blank shot is basically you put the handle, you put the cup, and you press the shot. It's just going to give you 15 seconds of hot water. You can do that once, you can do that twice. I can do it again with a single button just to give you peace of mind that it works fine. It should go for about 10 to 12 seconds. Once that's done, get your cup, put it away. I'll put it on top. Get your portafilter and dry it nice and thoroughly. Okay. Your machine comes with quite a few accessories. It comes with 4 baskets, 2 single and 2 double size. This is the double size single wall. Single wall means it's made with 1 layer. There's also a double size double wall. That one is for pre-ground coffee. So this is to be used with beans, freshly ground. The other one is to be used with pre-ground coffee. And there's differences in why you want to use that one in terms of the pressure and the crema that it gives you. But the simple answer is, if you're using a grinder, just use the single wall. It'll taste better and they'll be easier to clean. Whereas if you're using older or cheaper beans or pre-ground beans, use the double wall because they'll give you more crema, but those are harder to clean. So this will take about 18 grams of ground coffee. If you have a scale in the kitchen, I highly recommend, it's nice and warm. If you have a scale in the kitchen, I highly recommend you use the scale to measure the inputs and outputs for this machine. It will help you in the beginning in determining what settings to use. I'll be putting the machine in the settings that are roughly for espresso. So out of the box, they may have the grind size a bit too large or a bit too small, or the brew size a bit too long. I'll customize those to my own preferences, and when you get the machine, I want you to try it with your own beans and tweak it as needed. So these settings won't be 100% applicable to every single user out there, because beans will differ in terms of what pressures they give you, what flavors they give you, etc. Okay. I like to grind my coffee in 2 steps. In fact, I think I'm missing one accessory. Give me 1 second. There we go. Your machine also comes with a collar tool that I actually need to use in this demonstration, just to help you know what it's for. So this will attach to your portafilter just like this, and that's going to minimize any spillage that you have around the handle, around the basket, and you can also press the coffee straight through. So I'll reset my scale, and then I'll be grinding about 13 seconds, and let's see what that gives us. So the grind size is on the left here. This will adjust the grind size, meaning the coarseness or the fineness of the coffee particles coming out of the grinder. If the grind size is too large, your shots will be too quick. If the grind size is too small, the shots will be too slow. Cheap or old beans can also give you a large shot. Cheap or old beans can also give you a very quick shot with very little crema. I've noticed that in my experience. So if your coffee lacks body, lacks crema, get fresher beans is my advice. But also the settings are really important as well. Unfortunately, I accidentally bought this Aurora brand of beans. I was meant to buy the Aldi brand, but I didn't have any time. So I highly recommend you get a fresh bean from a roaster. Otherwise, if you want to get a supermarket bean, I would only recommend the Aldi brand at this stage. Not a sponsor, but I just really think their beans are quite fresh and they are good for the money. Alright, 13 seconds, let's grind. Okay, that's 13 seconds. I think that's not quite 18 grams, that's 11 grams. So what we'll do is we'll increase it to 18 seconds, maybe 19 seconds. So that means we've got 6 more seconds to go. So now the total is 19 seconds. It's just under 17. Okay, maybe the perfect grind size for this machine is 20 seconds. Yeah, that's 17 and a half, perfect. So anything around 17 to 18 usually hits the spot for me. I'll leave it on 20 seconds and I'll let you experiment. It's okay to go a little bit under versus a little bit over. Yeah, so once you have your full amount, try to spread the coffee around, shake it around, and then press before you press it. Otherwise, if you press it straight away, it's going to be like a mountain of coffee, and then the pressures when you press it will be highest in the middle, and it'll be loose around the sides. There's a little bit of finesse. Just try to shake it and make it roughly flat before you press it with the tamper. And then, once you press, give it a nice polish. Take it out. So this is what it looks like without the collar tool. If you don't have a scale, that's totally fine. You can still make great coffees. Have a look at the tamper. So one thing I like about Breville machines is that the silver part on their tampers actually corresponds to the correct depth of coffee that you need after you press the coffee. So I've got about 17.5 grams in here. And this silver part on the tamper disappears. It's completely flush with the basket. That means we roughly have the right amount of coffee. If you can still see some of the silver part, or I think actually on your machine it's golden. If you can still see the golden part on the tamper, like this, the metal part is very high and you can still see some of it above the basket, then I would say that's too much coffee and you need to use the razor tool. So the razor tool is this piece of metal that you it's somewhere in the box. It's a piece of metal that you... I can find one actually, give me 1 second. This is it. And yeah, you basically put it in like this and you rotate around, and it will scrape any excess coffee that you may have. I don't have any excess coffee actually, so it's basically flush with the razor tool in my case today. But yeah, you just rotate it above the bin to get rid of the top layer that's too much. That's it if you have too much coffee. If you have too little coffee, so for example, if the tamper sinks very deeply into the basket, and it's quite obvious that it's much deeper than the silver part or the brass part, in that case, just add a little bit more coffee. But like I said, a little bit under is fine, a little bit over can be more annoying. So for example, if you have too much coffee in the handle, firstly, you may not be able to lock in the handle, and secondly, you may affect the pressures in your coffee, so it may slow down the coffee significantly and just affect your results. Anyway, with that out of the way, just to summarize, I've got grind size 5, amount at 20 seconds. So the amount obviously is how long it'll grind for. The grind size is how far the blades are, and as a result, how fine the particles of coffee in the end are. Smaller number means a smaller, finer grind size, and that will slow down your shots if they are too quick. A larger number will increase the particle size, and it'll allow water to flow more quickly through the coffee, and at the end, it'll result in a quicker shot if you increase the grind size above or higher. Coffee time. So I'll get rid of this hot water. It's done its job nicely. If you like sugar or flavors or sweetener with your coffee, add it now before you start the coffee. That's just going to help it mix nicely. You don't have to mess too much afterwards. I like to add a little bit of hazelnut syrup. I'm going to add some. These buttons on the front are also customizable, so you can have the single and the button, the single and the double buttons change to whatever length you prefer, length of coffee. They go by length and not by time. There is a timer on the screen to help you know how long your shots are going for and if you have roughly the right settings, but the machine actually goes by volume of water given. I will change the double button to what I think is the correct recipe for espresso, which is around 35 to 40 grams. Out of the box, the machine will give you about 60 grams of coffee, which is too much, I think. A recipe for espresso is a 2-to-1 ratio. So we've put in 18 grams of ground coffee into the basket, into the handle here with grinder. We want double that into the cup, so we want 36 grams into the cup. So anything between 35 and 40 is fine, is acceptable in my eyes. It's not a science experiment. It doesn't have to be exactly on the dot in terms of the numbers, but the closer the better, I think, if you want to follow the recipe. Otherwise, just do whatever recipe you prefer. It doesn't have to be exactly 2-to-1. Some people prefer a 1-to-1. Some people prefer a 3-to-1. It's all preference. But a 2-to-1 is a good place to start. And a correct espresso is that 2-to-1 ratio in 25 seconds or 30 seconds approximately. So I want to be getting that 36 grams in about 25 seconds. If it's much quicker than 25, if the shot happens in only 10 or 15 seconds, it may be my beans that are very old or the grind size is very large and we need to reduce it. If the 36 gram shot comes in longer than 25 seconds, say for example 45 seconds, that's too long and I need to grind coarser to increase the speed and the grind size. Anyway, let's go. Starts brewing around the 7-second mark. Alright, so as I expected, it's a bit too quick for my liking. And I really believe it's the beans. I haven't had this issue with fresher beans. But this is the amount that we got. I believe this is around the 40 mark. Let's have a look. Oh, that's 50 grams of coffee. A bit too much. So I'll leave it there, honestly. I think I'm running late for work, but now you know what to do in terms of the espresso. So you know that grind size 5 should be okay with good beans. Grind size 20, grind amount 20 will give you around 17 grams of coffee, and the double button should give you roughly this much coffee, which is about 50 grams. And that's a recipe. That's a bit too long in my opinion, but I was aiming for 40, but it was just running too quick. I could do it again with a finer grind size, but like I said, my settings will not be applicable to you. If your beans are of a higher quality, you actually shouldn't have the same issues. You should be getting a good extraction with these settings. But do let me know. Send me a video of your extraction and I'm happy to give you a bit of feedback. That's espresso. So you can drink this on its own, and it's espresso. You can add some hot water from the hot water tap here. So if you rotate this away from you, you get clean hot water straight from the boiler. It gets really hot after a few seconds. And if you add some milk, it's a latte. So I'm going to be steaming some milk for the latte. So I've filled my milk jug about halfway, or just below the spout here. You have the brass jug obviously, so I've kept that nice and clean in the box. But anyway, do fill it the same way, so just below the spout. And I'll quickly do some cleaning. So after you knock it into the bin, give it a good flush. Just like before, we've pressed the single or the double button to give us hot water. This will clean the shower screen as well as the porta filter itself. And if you want to be extra nice to your machine, just get a tissue or clean towel and wipe the shower head as well. So even after you flush, sometimes there still remains a few drops or granules of coffee, coffee grounds or coffee espresso. In this case, almost nothing, so that's fine. It looks like it's already clean by the flush. I try to keep it dry as much as possible. Anyway, moving on to the milk. Sorry I'm whispering, I think everyone at home here is asleep. So try to minimize the noise. For steaming, you want to turn on the wand and wait about 5 seconds until it starts pulsing the pump. That's when it's about full pressure. And then I'm going to turn it off, place my jug, turn it back on. Placing the jug at an angle, so I'm spinning the milk as it's getting steamed. And I'm also going to keep the tip of the wand close to the surface for the first 10 seconds or so. All done. Now, very important, you want to wipe and purge. So just turn on the wand. Even before you let it cool down, just turn it on for a little bit, just to push out some water, some steam through the holes and clean. Also really important to wipe it with a wet towel straight away. The milk will get really hot, it'll bake onto the metal, and it will stay forever if you don't clean it straight away. Well, not forever, but it'll be really hard to remove tomorrow and later on. So just wipe it off straight away, and please only use cloths. Don't use metal metal sponges or the blue part of a sponge. Just otherwise it'll take the color off this one. So just use cloth to keep it nice and golden for you. That's all done. Espresso done, milk done. It's time to call it a latte. So I'm just gonna swirl the jug to mix it up, and then I'm gonna knock it on the counter to break any of the big air bubbles. I'm no barista, but I think if you have a bit of dexterity and a bit of latte art training, you can really get some really nice latte art on this machine. Here's the final result. I've tried to draw hard, but I'm not very skilled. So that's the best that we got. But I think this looks like a delicious coffee. I'm looking forward to having it. I'm sure you can do even better coffees and designs with when you get this machine. And yeah, thanks again for watching. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate. Thanks again for your business. Hope you enjoy the machine and the coffees. And it should be sent later this afternoon. Enjoy.